Hi, welcome everybody to the new latest Ask the Expert. I'm your host, I'm Lisa, and we're going to be introducing Philippe. So go take it away.
All right, good morning everybody, and thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a webinar related to CMDB and ITSM relation workout. We are going to do some kind of scenarios. I know some of you have been working with CMDB, some others, maybe this is brand new. So we are going to just review some concepts. We are going to reinforce in certain things that ServiceNow has included already in Madrid version. And we are going to identify certain things that you can also apply as an advanced module, maybe using Service Portal, maybe using other criteria, maybe you applying assignment rules, or many other kind of relation modules that we have inside the platform. Basically, let's start just going through and making the presentation. All right, so my name is Felipe Alzate. I'm working with NovaSkill. Have been 3 years related to training and assignment for many education classes related to ServiceNow. Some of those have been with sysadmin, advanced sysadmin, scripting fundamentals, service portal, advanced service portal, and some other topics, right? Feel free to post your questions inside the chat or even inside the community. Right, so let's talk about a little bit behind what's related to ServiceNow and what's the platform, all right? So some of you already know that ServiceNow has a lot of tools, has a lot of things, but basically some people, they relate that they only know certain things inside the platform. Right now, we were scheduled to call the platform as a service, right? In the old school ways, we call this as an enterprise service mode. So this is like we call old school way now, related to all the needs that ServiceNow is offering. We don't only have ITSM, we don't only have ITOM, we don't only have application development or even some kind of tools for business management. Nowadays, we have tons of things that are related to. However, if we start thinking about how many things are just related to ServiceNow, we have many modules that could be related to the CMDB. Nowadays, if we talk about human resources, right, we need to know, right, are we using Classboard? Are we using Moodle? Are we using certain applications? How we can control that those applications are not related to disruption, are not related to outages, are not related to failures. Another thing, we can work with government risk and compliance, right? We can work with SecOps. We can work with incident vulnerability response. Are we sure we are working with the correct tools? These tools are already protected. These tools are already realized to, or they are aligned to the process of CMDB. So many of the new modules that ServiceNow is offering, we need to always take care, and this is related to CMDB. That's how the new module comes. CMDB is basically part of our brand concept, and it's basically the core of the system. So for everybody that is brand new, I do really recommend this link. I'm going to share it with you on the chat. This is basically a foundation class that is already shared inside the community, gives you some topics. Even some other experts have been talking about CMDB. We have tomorrow another webinar. It's Stephen Bell. He has been working with ServiceNow for a century, many years, and he has another webinar that you can just go through and you can check that is related to CMDB basics, all right? Here, we are not going to be emphasized on basics. However, you can pose your questions if you have something related, but we are going to go a little bit advanced, all right? So let's talk about an introduction and agenda. So our term or topic related for today will be ITSM related CMDB best practices. So we are going to see how we should apply CMDB, which is a terminology, how we can asset or how we can make a proper inspection inside the system, and how we can make our secure process for implementation. My name, as you know, is Felipe Alzate. I'm a Colombian developer, have been working with NovaSkill for 3 years, have been there also with ServiceNow, that has been the relation, authorized training partner. We have been working with many courses, have been 5 years experience related to training, education, working with webinars, coaching sessions, have been working with information security, infrastructure, and ITSM related topics too, up to 12 years. Certified ServiceNow instructor. If anybody knows or it's related to, we have a session that will be impacted or will be placed up to May. It's called Knowledge 19, right? So please, you are more than welcome and invited to search inside ServiceNow for any other details, all right? Knowledge 19 will be held in Las Vegas from May the 5th up to May the 10th. And we have many surprises there. We have a lot of topics, a lot of workout sessions, a lot of trainings, a lot of things. My hobbies, all right? Even that I'm a trainer, I have a life. So I'm passionate for rock climbing and cycling. I do a lot of exercise. And I'm a code and tester geek passionate guy. So I have been working, making unit testing, working a little bit with coding, certain other things, right? That's my LinkedIn profile. If you want to just go there and start asking questions as well. And that's what we are going to talk about for personal life. Let's emphasize on what's going to be inside this session, right? We are going to do some demos. However, we are going to see some theory and topics there. We are going to talk about what could be better to do if we have the chance to align business values or effectiveness along the mood of CMDB towards incident problem change and certain other scenarios, such as knowledge as well, service catalog, right? So we are going to talk about assignment rules applicable for CMDB. Some people, they already know that we have agent intelligence as our new AI version. So it makes a machine learning process to cover this. So even if you don't want to install the plugin, or if you don't want to work with it, or you don't know, or it's not something that you are familiar with, we are going to do it manually. So you can apply and you can know which will be the best practices if you need to tier up your CMDB or make escalations inside incident, problem, or change. We are going to talk about a little bit how we can align and how will be the best practice to implement CMDB with the business values of the company. It's totally different in a company that is working with cosmetics. It's totally different in a company that works with art. It's totally different in a company that works with public safety, insurance, finance. So we are going to see which will be the best fit for each of those kind of companies and how we can give the best return of investment with the ITSM effectiveness. As well, we are going to relate this return of investment with the benchmarks that are aligned on ITSM. Most of the companies, when they apply CMDB, they are expecting that they can see kind of a profit when they have the KPIs aligned to this. So we are going to see how we can make the coverage for incident, problem, and change. And we are going to relate some other topics related to the first demos that we are going to do. And then finally, we are going to talk about how we create and design and appropriate a CMDB, right? We are going to work a little bit with CI class manager. We are going to try to see how the CI attributes should be appropriate and should be configured for the system. And basically, everybody talks about service portal. However, nobody talks how CMDB can be enhanced or can be applicable on service portal. That will be the plus that we are going to talk today. So for everybody, welcome on board. And let's talk about a little bit about CMDB. So what's CMDB? For everybody, CMDB, it's the configuration management database terminology coming from ITIL. However, CMDB is not the only way that we can call it. If you would like to know a little bit, let's start jumping through our instance, right? So for many reasons, people, they know that CMDB is a configuration management database. However, some people, they might know if you are related to the configuration management, or you are already assigned as a process owner, process manager, or somebody responsible to do certain things inside CMDB, you might need to know related to the big modules that we have. One will be configuration. I call it CMDB. The other one will be configuration by category, CMDB by category. Another one will be contextual search. Why I'm talking about contextual search? Remember that the demo that I mentioned will be to know how we can cover those benchmarks. And one of the things that we are going to cover inside the benchmarks for contextual security search will be how we can find knowledge articles and how we can provide record producers without any impact on the system, how we can apply best practices, and how we can relate all the details that we need to know once basically applying those, right? Basically, step number 5 demo will be service portal configuration, right? However, if you don't need to know or you don't want to find out all the favorites, you can go directly to CMDB. CMDB is a base core table of the system that it's always related to task. What means task? Task is every activity that we have inside ServiceNow. Task is related to incident, problem, change, service request, requested items, knowledge articles, or many other kind of elements that we can use inside Scrum methodology or implementation process. So when we talk about CMDB, it's not only to know, all right, I know the terminology on how ServiceNow works with CMDB. However, we need to know that ServiceNow applies CMDB methodology not only as a powerful and single system of records related to what we call configuration items or even CIs, right? And even those can be tangible or intangible. But another thing that we should include is that when we properly maintain and we solve or we include a proper situation where we can include essential components for a successful deployment, this works as magic. One of the important things is that CMDB is not only related to the core or out of the box components of the system. However, we can integrate many other environments of the system. We can integrate third-party CMDBs. We can import our CMDB element or configuration items outside. If we have maybe a third-party integration service, we have an appliance that is already including all our intelligence of software engineering infrastructure, we can include it to ServiceNow. And even we can always use ITOM, IT Operations Management. Remember that ServiceNow offers you 2 options that will be service mapping and discovery, right? Due to the lack of time, we are not going to work with discovery. We are not going to work with service mapping. However, maybe in future sessions, we can work with those. So let's go a little bit and let's talk on how CMDB works and how it could be applicable, right? So when we talk about, all right, the company needs to know how is the infrastructure working through and how the infrastructure will be impacted once we work with the process of implementation in ServiceNow. We need to identify how we can apply and how we can cover and how CMDB will be giving me a profit for the system. One of those will be to know that CMDB or the configuration management database always goes for business application impact analysis. How we go with this? Basically, we know when something comes into incident, problem, or change, and how we can categorize. Remember that we always have kind of a RASI or matrix that gives us the priority, right? We are going to talk about a little bit later, and we are going to make some demos. Asset management, being complete clear, asset controls everything that is related to the financial optimization, right? Related to the money, related to how we invest, related to how we cover elements, related to how we can determine when an element can be deployed, can be retired, and can be included as a renewal or a migration. Something that we know is that we need to know about compliance, right? How we can include that profit of the company or those KPIs and how we can see the compliance related to the CMDB, how the system or how ServiceNow with the big module of CMDB is responding to all needs that you have inside the company. And the last part will be related to configuration management basics that we have through. So let's talk about an example, a simple example that we have through or once you go through CMDB. Every company, when they start building, right, when they start talking about CMDB, they have users, they have people that will work in process, they have people related to cover it, they have people that they are already experts inside each application, server, network and device, or any other component. Remember, a CI or configuration item could be any element related to the system that could be recognized as an infrastructure value asset, and this determines the possibility of any operation related to the core. For example, if we don't have internet, we cannot send emails, we cannot provide maybe integrations, we cannot log in into the ServiceNow instance, and many other terms, right? That will be the service. However, if we think about that impacted service, we need to know how they bring us that information and from which devices that information comes, right? Sometimes mature companies, they build up a huge or mature service desk where they can make escalation teams. We call it tiers, right? Some companies, they have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 even, or what we call research and development. So when we talk about tiering up and separating or segregating tasks and duties, we have to think about ITSM always, because CMDB always goes in the same mood or even parallel way with ITSM effectiveness. So when we talk about tiering and making things, we need to know, all right, how we can cover this for any module or any structure that we are covering through. Depending on the maturity, we can go through, or depending on the needs, right? For example, for a tier 1, we can have maybe an email, we can have self-service for everybody. So we can jump into our tool and we can go to self-service. Some people, they prefer to go to the service catalog, right? And they jump there. They go, all right, you know what? I have my service catalog and I would like to go and ask for help, right? So we have different in many manners or many ways to complete or ask for help, right? Related to the service desk. It could be one of those, creating an incident directly on the system, going to self-service, going to the service catalog, and going through on the record producer. And we have tons of records and details that we need to control. Let's suppose that we can imagine a company that has maybe 5,000 users. It's not big, highly big, but not quite big. Let's think a bank that it's spread all over United States. How many states do we have? How many people do we control? How many offices we have or we own for service? So depending on those needs, we have to check how will be our tier 1. Tier 1 will be the level that we are going to support and give response for it, right? Basically, tier 1 makes diagnosis, and they should need or they should know how the system or how the structure or the infrastructure is supported or it's related. Basically, tier 1 relates to know about SNMP communities, basically all network and devices that we have through hubs, switches, routers, access points, load balancers, workstations, laptops, printers, or any other device that is related to basic needs, right? Then if we think about a little bit, or if we talk about something that it's not applicable here, we go through tier 2, tier 3, and many others, right? Related to this process, we need to know, all right, do we have maybe an article that could be offered for him? Do we have any solutions that we can cover for that configuration element or configuration item that we are talking about? This element is being deprecated, its staleness is related to a big important procedure or business core value. It's covering something that the company needs, or it's a 24/7 operation. So we need to be really careful with this, right? Sometimes we need to know the root cause analysis of elements when we talk about problem. We need to know the correlation, and we are going to see some kind of information that here we call at the beginning dependency data. Later on, we are just bringing this dependency data or resolution process or connections or transition lines up to dependency view. So when we start thinking about how we can apply a CMDB, or how will be the best way to align CMDB to the ITSM world, we need to see, all right, let's talk about 1 minute. How the service data could be accessed, and how can I update or how can I control this information? It's tier 1 responsible for updating the CIs. Is tier 2 responsible, or tier 3? Or even we have a process owner We have a configuration management expert. We have somebody that knows the importance and relevancy of all the infrastructure or all the networking topology that we have through the system. Some companies, they do it manually, as I'm telling you. Some companies, they apply discovery or service mapping, depending on the budget and depending on the needs. Some other ones, they just go through to adapt themselves as service models. A service model is what we can refer as a hierarchical model for services, assets, and the infrastructure created to record relationships inside the CMDB between configuration items. So when you jump here, right, and you jump to the service catalog, or you jump to any place, right, and you jump to the system, and all right, let's create an incident. Let's go to create new. We jump into the incident, and we refer to the term of the form, right? I would like to know that my configuration item is server FLX or FYC or whatever you are creating through, right? So they go through and we have servers or we don't have information. Sometimes you can make a lookup, right? However, this is related to the tier 1 dependency, right? So somehow you need to know which is the information that you are loading here. I just delete the demo data, and I'm deleting this to show you how we can apply different elements and how we can include different information here. That's why we don't have demo data. So when you have this kind of a scenario and you are from blank, you are in a whiteboard, you need to know, all right, which will be my guideline to create that service model. I need to know and I need to identify how the customer can identify his problem or his issue or his disruption or his outage, which will be our service level package. Do we have any specific categories, subcategories, or identities that can be applicable for the terminology of the process? Do we have a service portfolio that we can offer through? Do we have any contract with a third-party provider related to those specific elements or configuration items that we are including in our infrastructure? So depending the needs, we have different options, right? One of the examples that we have here is maybe a bank, right? The banks, they have a lot of elements or a lot of infrastructure. Sometimes they have databases, servers, web servers, application servers, storage servers, and related to a bank, remember that they have to accomplish not only the CMDB for ServiceNow, but this CMDB should be accomplished up to the compliance of legal terms or laws, right? Because the banks are related to SARS-CoV, they are related to ISO 27000, ISO 20000, and many other laws that are applicable for it. So when we talk about, all right, let's apply service models, we need to know which will be the class of elements that I'm going to create with. One of the best practices or the best exercises that you can apply inside the company will be, right, let's relate how we can create and how we are going to include our scenario, right? So first part that we are going to do is knowing or identifying how we can know what's technology, right? How will be the technology enclosed to. So basically technology could be, all right, a laptop, all right, a tablet, could be a phone, or it could be any interface device, could be utility service, could be an application corporation, distribution service, or base platforms. So basically, technology could be service. Now, yes, if you can consider it, you can apply it for it. So here we are just trying to identify how we can adapt our system or our infrastructure to ServiceNow. We need to know how will be the configuration items split into the system as in areas. Another element that could be or they apply is business services or applications. So basically applications are intangible, right? Basically, you need somebody that is the software developer or even an expert related to that application, which could be applications such as for human resources, Workday, for CRM could be SAP or any other ones, could be related to Salesforce, could be related to any applications that you are using, could be Office suite applications like Office 365, Microsoft solutions, could be something that you are applying through or something that you are in housing, right? Some applications could be related to in-house development, right? So we need to know basically which is the mission of that application, how is the business critical enhancement or assessment that we have through, and which of those will be the productivity, right? They are already 24/7 in use. They are applied for a specific group or scope of users that we have inside the system. When we talk about CMDB, something that we need to know it's data, right? Where is my data stored, right? Not only talking about databases. Do I have maybe backups? Do I have something where else I put the info? Do I have FTPs that they are interconnecting each other? Do I have servers that they are applicable only for minimizing our risk and making the compliance of laws related to how we cover and how we protect the data? Are we using encryption? Which is the type of encryption? So that kind, when we talk about data, we need to know which elements are the ones that we are going to offer. Sometimes, and be really careful with this, sometimes companies, they know that they are offering data. However, they are properties of protected data. Let's talk about public safety, governance, or health plans, right? When you talk about a hospital, right? Are you going to include or you will include your database system with IP, username, and credentials? So can everybody join to that and take out info? Maybe inside that kind of data, you need to restrict some values or some configuration item attributes that will be enabled for the system. So if we go back a little bit behind, we need to know who of the tiering side will be the one that we can offer through. And if we go directly to the configuration, right, and we need to start going through, we need to verify, all right, which will be the class and which will be the personas or people that will be related to that exactly as an area or that exactly element, right? So for example, we have here our CI class, and related to our CI class, I don't know why it's so slow, but maybe meanwhile it loads, right? We have the CI class, and when we talk about CI class, we need to identify how the system behaves each other related to the configuration items that we are going to apply through. So basically, when we talk about how we apply, it means which will be the information, which will be the details, and how will be the relation. Does tier 1 needs that information? Does tier 2 needs that tier 3 needs? Or even that is always protected? So that's something that we always need to take care of, right? So we only have one configuration item, one business service. We don't have any of the elements. Why? Because I would like to show you how we can or how you adapt systems. But basically, you have the hierarchy, right? You have the elements that you can work with. ServiceNow comes with an out-of-the-box structure that is including you certain elements. So if you go to server, for example, you have the chance to go to server, and you have the possibility to search for server, IP server, EX server, AIX. So you have the categories, right? So basically on inside here, you can verify which will be the elements that could be related to the tier 1, right? First part will be identifying how we are going to include those elements up to the needs. Second part, if we go back here, we need to know if everything is already included. It means, all right, ServiceNow is offering me all classes, all kind of classes. Those classes are adapted or they are aligned to what my business process values are related to. Maybe yes, maybe no, right? So when we talk about CI Class Manager, you have the chance to create your own class identities and your own class procedures. Where you are going to include them, basically you have three tables. You have the CMDB, and the CMDB goes for the base configuration items aligned table, right? So we don't have any elements, and we are going to create some elements so you can see from scratch how you can create a structure for CMDB, right? So you have the base configuration items. This is the first table and the alignment table for all the elements there. I'm going to see if somebody has questions on the chat. All right, Carl, good morning. So I took a fundamentals class with you in August. You passed the exam, right? Amazing. What's the difference between business service and application service? Right, that's a good question. Right, Hemar, I think. Hemar Shakar. Let's talk about your question before we move on. So whenever you talk about business service, right? Business service and business application, we have something that it's clear there on this slide, right? When we talk about business service is something that we offer and we use for internal consumption, right? What will be a business service? A CRM will be a business service. For example, email. Business service could be a transactional portal that you use for making your payroll, for making exactly transactions, or something that relates to the service values of the company. For example, something that has a dependency on business functionalities, right? When we talk about a business application, sometimes that business application is something that you are creating, building, developing for in a specific scope with a third party provider or company or customers. Remember that some companies, they offer services, right? And they always need their CMDB to have this in a correct order or configuration. However, when we talk about business service and application service or business applications, we need to identify one big difference. Business applications, they work from inside to the outer side world. So I'm offering something to somebody else. Business services are related to the inner side, are related to the company values or needs related to the production and ITSM effectiveness. So that's one of the big differences that you have there. Can I align business service with business applications or applications that I'm creating through? And can be an application as well, a business service and a business application at the same time? Yes, it happens that sometimes you can talk about that a business service and a business application, they can join or they can be aligned related to the needs. Something that you have is maybe your application, it's applicable for a module that it's inside your company. For example, if we are talking about training your employees, and maybe you can offer training outside, right? So your business applications gives you profit, and that's when we talk about business applications. But a business service means that you are training your employees for a personal improvement scope, or maybe any related objective or KPI that it's inside the company, right? So that's how you can identify the big difference between business service, application service, or business application, all right? So let's continue talking about how we can align things, right? So another thing sometimes could be the CUCM, Unified Communications. Some companies, they have different kinds of elements that you can apply through, like VoIP servers, Avaya integrations, DMCC, Cisco integrations, Genesis, PBX, IVR, interactive voice response, or maybe other ones, right? Related to communications, it's not only depending because people, it's always thinking about that the best method of communication, it's the email. However, the email, it's one of those, it's one kind of those. However, it's not the only one, all right? So we need to know, do we have any high availability here? Do we have production server? Do we need workstations? Do we have different scenarios where we communicate or we talk each other? Do we have instant messaging? Do we use any other applications or business service applications that we have through inside the system? For example, some companies, they nowadays they use Microsoft Teams. Some others they use Slack. Some others they use HipChat. Some others they use other dashboards or other ways. And people, they totally forgot that we have something inside ServiceNow that is called live feed, right? Live feed gives you a possibility to make social IT without any problem, any matter. Can I apply live feed with CMDB? Yes. If you would like to relate, for example, something upon configuration item, you can include it here, and somebody will be telling you, all right, let's go for it, right? Another thing will be the IT management. Related to this, we are going to go a little bit back behind to the tiering sites, right? When we talk about IT management, we need to know who will be the responsible for that specific scope or that specific chapter related to the needs. We are talking about service desk. We are talking about escalations. We are talking about research and development. We are talking about something that needs a site along provider or vendor. So we need to verify where it is. Security environment. So we need to know if we are talking about not only policies and principles, compliance, laws, how we can control the staff of SecOps, like various management, incident vulnerability response, how we can control attacks, or maybe any other matters related to the companies. Remember, cybersecurity, nowadays blockchain, IoT, and many other uh, technology, new terms and new models are coming up. So we need to be really careful with how we can secure and how we can protect our system and our infrastructure. That's why I tell you that at the beginning of data, we need to know which will be the information that we are going to post. And systems, basically, we need to know which are our systems or which are the elements that we are working through. So if we already identify how we can build a CMDB and how we can imply or how we can go through for our CI class manager, we need to know how is the business service impact analysis. And here is where I'm going to go a little bit deep dive in where we are going to apply certain scenarios and certain elements here, right? So when we talk about business service impact analysis, we need to be clear and we need to be really precise on which will be our main infrastructure, which will be our needs, and how we are going to assign them or how we are going to protect them. So we are going to make our first demo, and now you are going to see something that will be inside here. So what happens when we go through, right? When we go through inside the system and we don't have a CMDB, basically everybody can just come in, right? And can be telling you, all right, let's create a record, let's create something. However, we don't have the info, right? If we don't have the info, how they can control, how they can solve, how they can protect, and how they can identify which is a risk, priority, and needs. Basically, when you talk about ITSM management, right, with a CMDB, gives you the control, gives you the tracking purpose, gives you the way, and you will notify yourself and know where exactly the problem belongs to. Let's start moving ourselves to our instance and let's make our first demo, all right? Talking about assignment rules and talking about the needs that we have when we create a CMDB. We know that right now we don't have any CMDBs, right? We don't have any elements, we don't have any CIs, we don't have anything created. However, we can go to the CI class manager and start creating it. Basically, what we need to create is identify, right, how we are going to monitor, how we are going to control the information. Basically, in this side, it's what we know that we have an event. Basically, an event could be something related to the health of the systems, something related to the system outage, or something that comes in as a matter. Sometimes they have, for example, applicable SNMP controls, or they are monitoring the networking. Some kind of companies, they have a knock related to, all right, we have this server down, or this networking point is down, this access point is not working fine. So that's one of the ways they can monitor technology that way. Even if you don't want to do it that way, you have the SOC, right? Security Operations Center. That means that you have the protection for maybe any attack, any intrusion, or you can apply different elements related to your firewall, IDS, IPS, or SIEM technology, right? Related to those, some kind of companies, they use ArcSight, they use Tipping Point, they use other vendors related to, and that's related to the point to protect and know which is the event and the metrics. Sometimes they want to know how many attacks they are receiving per minute, per month, per hour, per day. So when we think about, all right, how we can design, how we can create a CMDB, there is no only business context from events. Basically, we don't need only a relation that something is occurring, or that somebody is attacking us, or that something is happening. We don't need only that way. We need to always protect our infrastructure and know how we can improve it to avoid any disruption, right? So when you come into the system and you start identifying, let's suppose that I'm going to create different classes, right? Basically, some people, they know that CMDB is the baseline structure. However, CMDB CI is the extended table for all configuration items that we have inside. So one of the things will be, all right, CMDB is my base configuration item table, and then we have something extended through that it's called CMDB CI. All right, interesting. If I would like to extend something else, should I extend from CMDB or should I extend from CMDB CI? Something that I'm always clearing up this inside the concept is for everybody, be really careful when you are creating it, right? Never create things related to the CMDB. Always use CMDB CI and then the structure. Why? It's giving you the best practice inside the CI class manager. So let's create our class, let's create our object, and then we go through the first demo. So let's create something that we are going to call laptops, right? Laptops is not here. We know that we have computers, however, we don't have laptops. So we can go to configuration item, and even I can create it from here if I want to, and I go and add the child class if I want to, or even I can find which will be the other scenario or class terminology that I'm going to relate. Remember, I need to know how I'm going to monitor and which will be the places scenario where I'm going to include that specific class category for all those configuration items that I'm going to collect with. So if I would like to go through, I can create it here, or even I can continue moving across the system. And I know that something that comes here handy will be the hardware, right? So if you go there, you have hardware, right? And inside hardware, we have different elements, right? We have computers. So computers are already included. Yes, we have this. However, laptops is not there. Can I include it from here, or can I include it from hardware? It depends on the company needs. It depends on the company classification. If you want to, for example, do it from this side, right, and you are going to include a child class that is going to be from CMDB CI, and you would like to include it in here, right, as laptops, you can do it. It's not a problem. However, it depends on the way that you are going to typify or classify the elements across the system, right? So here we have, and let's suppose that this will be laptops at company tips, right? There you go. Can we do it extensible? Yeah, it depends which kind of laptops are we going to use, right? We can have private laptops, corporate laptops, public laptops, merchandise laptops. So depending on your needs, you can have different classes here, right? Remember that this is not only related to technology, because people, they always think that the CMDB is related to always things relate to technology, right? You don't need to only talk about when you are covering this related to this specific scenario. You can leave it as a best practice, and I'm always telling people you can leave your CI class that you are creating through extensible, even if you think that maybe later on you are going to create something else, right? If you are not creating, that's fine, but it's already extensible. And even remember that this process is only controlled by people that they know how they are going to work with the system, that they know how they are going to identify infrastructure monitoring inside the CMDB. The next step will be once you create your CI class, which will be the foreign type, and then how you are going to adapt this to the assignment rules and the properties. So let's create it. Let's include an icon, a simple icon. We don't have a laptop here right now. Maybe later on we should have as a suggestion. So we go through, we add the attributes. Meaning the attributes means that you can include many other columns. This is where it comes handy, and we talk about the configuration item form, right? So when we talk about configuration item, it depends on the class of the element, technology, structure that you would like to identify, and depends on the needs that you are going to work with. How many details you include? Those details should be related to the scenario of your ITSM effectiveness, right? Remember that we are going to apply certain things for ITSM. I'm going to show you with incident, problem, and change. I'm going to do 3 scenarios so you can see different things. We already know that the forms that we have inside our system are basically scenarios where we know that we can go through, we can grab demo data for the ones that were with me in different classes and scenarios. We know that we have demo data there. However, can we create something else, or can we have something brand new? Yes, we can do it. So let's go with laptops and let's create our columns labels. We can create different fields, right? We can create fields for reference and different elements, right? For example, we can create something can be uh, assigned to, related to, serial number of the computer, tag number if we want to, or many others. Right now, I'm not going to create any other one. Remember that you have this option, or even you can do it on the list or even on the form of that class when you have the list. Then we have something that will be the identification rule. This is applicable when you want to know how the term or how the system behaves each other. So related to the usage of the CMDB, you need to know, right, this identification rule could be applicable for incident, could be applicable for problem, for change, for request, could be applicable for any alert, could be applicable for a workflow. Can I apply this to a flow designer once a record is created related to this configuration item? So depending on the needs, you can set up identification rules to know that that element belongs to laptops. Reconciliation means that you would like to include elements that are coming up to the system, right? So elements that are already applied, or maybe they just have by mistake a bad CMDB configuration or mistype, you can come in and reconciliate or verify, for example, something that comes in, for example, import sets, right? Integrations or third party coming up through information from a mid server. So you can verify if this is coming fine. Another way will be with discovery and service mapping. This will be something that we are going to do later on with the laptops. That will be the last part of our scenario here with the demos, right? Will be the relationships, how we can control and how we can assign element scenarios that we can provide for the system and how we can connect each other. Those scenarios that we are connecting each other, they go through the dependency view structure. So we already created laptops, right? And when we create laptops, we have the possibility to identify that laptops, it's already there. And once you have your class, you have the CI list immediately. So you don't need to go directly to the CMDB back again and search for your table, right? We already know that it will be CMDB, CI, laptops, that list. However, I can go here and I'm going to create one object, right? This same way, we can create any infrastructure element, servers, firewalls, laptops, tablets, phones, anything you want to control. Anything you want to control inside your organization company could be considered a configuration item. Some people they are telling me, right, but maybe sometimes it could be a really complex situation when once I'm including a phone as a configuration item. It depends on the needs of the company, all right? As I'm telling you, depends on what you think or what you would like to include, right? So let's create a laptop test, right? We can include as many, as I already told you, right? We can include as many as configuration item attributes as we need. We can include the syntax of the scenario. We can include the operating system or the OS. We can include the version, the patches. If you want to include if it has an antivirus, for example, as a true or false variable or field. We can include different fields that are related to or even belong to our reference structure, such as which will be the escalation team or supporting team that is going to control this. And with this element that we are creating is where we are going to start including our first scenario, right? So laptop test is the one that we are going to use once we create an incident. However, if we go to create new, right? If we go to create new, something that we already discussed inside our scenario was to go through and talk about the demos, right? And the demo means that we need to know, all right, what's about configuration item and how we are going to apply. So let's talk about assignment rules. We already know that assignment rule, it's not always related with CMDB. People, they relate assignment rule as, all right, let's create assignment rule for if this is related to this, we assign somebody. However, we never talk about that how we can control the relation between CMDB. And that goes with this. If we know which will be the component, which will be the connectivity, and who will be the responsible, we will have an easier way to control the system information. So let's create the incident. And here, if you check through, we have the configuration item. However, we have only assignment group and assign to. Sometimes I always suggest to people to go through and include as well and make a dot walking, right? So you go to the configuration item, and here you have other possibilities, not even only assignment group or assign to. Inside the configuration item, we have fields such as support group and supported by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to include it right below the same exactly as in here, right? So if you identify the main screen that we talk about how we can verify and how we can control the tiering app or the tier support, it's where this belongs to, right? Is where this form comes in. So if we are talking about tier 1, we can create a business rule. If something is not applicable for, we can create a business rule, or we can create a UI policy where something here comes in as a condition, for example, inquiry help, and this is maybe internal application, right? We know that maybe tier 1 can solve it, right? So we don't need to include supported group or supported by. So we hide these fields. However, another thing that we can do is to include the assignment rule for it. And that's what I'm going to do. Let's suppose in a scenario, we talk about software. We talk about that software goes for operating system. And we talk about that it's our laptop, right? Who will be the responsible there? Will be an assignment group related to, will be a supported group, or will be assigned to or supported by. Basically, assignment group and support group, they are already reference fields. However, they have something that we already know that is reference qualifier. Depending on the condition, we apply or we see groups here, right? So assignment group relates everybody as an ITIL, right? An ITIL, or maybe dependency of structure for configuration. However, support group, they have maybe other kind of scenarios or other kind of groups that you can show them there, right? So depending on the needs, you can apply for it. How you are going to create your assignment rule, basically on the needs that you have there, right? So you go through, you go to your assignment rules, and basically you create a new assignment rule. So you can control any CMDB tiering, right? Rule, depending on your needs. If you see applies to, it depends on the conditions that you will have on the fields or even on the form. Assigned to, it always has group and user. However, if you want to go through with this one, for example, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to change on my form the configuration process. I'm going to move along this way, and I'm going to go through the configuration item inside here. For example, if I want to, if I don't have it here, I can create a one, right? So I can create, for example, configuration item. Sorry. Here, we go to the reference, and we bring the specific CI class if you want to, right? It could be depending on the CI class. If I would like to work with the CMDB, right? CI and then laptops, right? I could work with that one if I want to. Or even I could work with the baseline scenario, right? So let's work with CI. Going to show me a lot of things. So let's read user search. There you go. So you include it there. I can remove it, and I have already there, right? Let's suppose I already create my reference field. Now, what I'm going to do is something we call that walk-in. Basically, what I'm going to do is, in order to include that element in order to include it in the assigned to, we have the chance to go through, go to the configure form layout. We can go to the section that it's assigned to, right? And we can search if maybe that field that I created as configuration item is here. If not, we include it once again. Sorry, I didn't click on add. My apologies. Let me go through back again really quick. Sign to. Place it up the CI. Once we have the CI, right? Once we have the CI, it's not going to bring certain things there, right? Depending on. So something that people, they don't know, it's that when something comes in, for example, if my priority, for example, my priority, it's critical, right? And I'm talking about that maybe my category is related to software and something that goes inside the subcategory, I can assign to the CI as well. And even better, now that I already include my CI, I can come in to the assign to, and I can search for the CI, and I can include, if I want to, the support group and supported by. With this one, you can also select without any need of a business rule, without any need creating business rules. You can select with the assignment rule, which will be the CI that you are classifying, which will be the supported group and the supported by. What happens with the user and group? You can leave it empty and it doesn't matter, right? So with this one, we are making the first part of demos, right? We are making assignment rules applicable for CMDB. How we can create CMDB aligned with business values, and we can talk about big return of investment. Basically, if you check what I'm doing here, right, with the example and the scenario that I was showing you, we have the chance to see with this same way or this assignment rules that we are creating, we can create as many assignment rules, as many as UI policies, as many configuration policies that we need related to how we can relate each other from the classes that we are going to create inside the CMDB upon the needs inside task, right? Remember that task and CMDB, basically, they are the heart, brain, and soul of the system. Without a big or huge deployment and control, it's really difficult to have a big effectiveness inside ITSM resolution. So if we go and we continue, let's suppose applying this, we can come inside here in laptop, right, test, and we can bring any group or any kind of a scenario, right? And come inside here and include somebody, right, if we want to. So we can include this kind related to the needs, and related to the tier part, we can place it up properly, right? So sometimes we don't need to go through or include a lot of scenarios, because people, they always go through, right? You know what? If I need to assign or include something, I'm always going through a business rule. Yeah, basically that's correct. However, that's not the only way to do it, right? So this assignment rule, it's replacing what we consider as a business rule without any usage or even without impacting the performance. Remember that business rules, they work on server side and sometimes they can be related to async or before or after server response. So that's why we always prefer to work this way, right? So when we talk about thinking or when we start thinking about how we can align business values with CMDB, think about how you can go through, how you can relate the information, how you can relate your system, and how can be applicable for it, right? Now let's talk about the last part related to the labs, right? So I have created my own here. Now we have already created the CI class manager, and with this one, we will have different and tons of ways that we can control these relations. However, the most important fact that we need to know is which will be the elements that I'm going to include. For example, I'm going to show you how we can navigate ourselves into any other scenario. Sometimes people, they consider that they have to go directly to the configuration module and they have to search for servers. You have different ways to do it. If you know the syntax name of the table, you go there and you type it up, or even another way will be going through directly to the CI class manager, like I'm doing it here. You go to the hierarchy, you open the hierarchy, you go for example, I'm going to create server, go for servers, and here you have. For example, let's suppose that my laptop is going to connect to a Linux server. So in this case scenario, I already have the class. I don't need to create any other class. But even I need to go to the CI list. Do I need to go to the modules? No, not really. That depends on how you can control. So one of the things, as I'm telling you, when we talk about CMDB aligned with business values, try to always use the CI class manager. The CI class manager gives you the possibility to know the element exists, the element has already been included, the element has all the attributes and the values that we need to go through. Do we have all the needs and do we are covering with the tiering and proper site of inspection? Are we aligned to the KPIs of the company? Are we aligned to the SLAs? So here is where we cover the benchmarks that we are going to work with, right? So basically, I'm going to create a Linux server as a test, and then we are going to create a relationship, right? Linux test, remember the CI attributes, and then we have the configuration. Depending on the needs, remember that you are going to collect different scenarios here, right? Can we include credentials? Yes, that depends on your needs. Can we include high availability? Can we include maybe a related list of other elements that are related to? Yes. It depends on the needs that you are going to work with. You need to be really careful on how you are controlling. And this is not only for DevOps, this is always for people that is related to the workout or the daily routine on covering infrastructure. You need to be really careful, precise, and sensitive on the information that you are managing and you are including on the system. Maybe an input could be a mistake, or maybe an input could be a security failure, right? For example, some companies, they don't like to put the credentials. So you need to verify that your password is safe, right? Related to previous scenarios or previous slides that we talk about, will be good to know which will be the responsible for coming up to. So even if you want to give some arguments or some fields, you can also create views if you want to. That's another thing that you can do. Try to create views if you would like to tier up or if you would like to relate depending on the needs. For example, tier 1 will be the basic support that we have. They need the credentials? Maybe no, right? Do we have somebody that is the expert related to that specific server? Yes. Do we need that they go and get access inside? Could be possible. But maybe, do we need a contractor? Do we need somebody that comes into that server and knows the details of what we are working with? Maybe we need to be careful, right? Because if we are leaving for third-party providers, even we know that we are creating contracts and we are creating privacy policies and they are signing up, somebody can have a post-it, can have that written on, and we can have problems there, right? So that's when we talk about how we are going to control the form scenario, the information that we are playing through, and the information that it's being included. So last step, right? We have the Linux test and we have the laptop. If we are going to go directly to the lab that we are going to relate through, that will be, let's make benchmarks aligned to ICM, to the ITSM. We need to know that benchmarks are related to SLAs, service level agreements, organization level agreements, underpinning contracts, and not like relevant, but most important, we need to know the KPIs and how we are covering it. For example, some benchmarks that we have inside incident will be the percentage of resolution, percentage of response, percentage of outage, how many incidents are coming up with this scenario. How we can cover there? We can cover there with a good assignment rule or response to the system, how we can protect the system scenarios, how we can provide all the CI attributes to cover or try to resolve this process. And even another way that it's really cool, it's if you offer an article, right? For example, if I include here inside the Linux test or server, can I include something such as a CI related list or knowledge article? Yes. If you know that maybe from here, you can bring up something related as knowledge, right? Or articles that you can come up here. You can bring in somebody from the tiering part or side. You can include that inside the system. Another way that you can come in could be including attachments, right? If you know that maybe there was already a prior studio or prior incident problem outage change that comes in to the system, you can include that attachment into the system as an area. For example, be aware, the server has a problem with this patch. You need to do this same steps or same how to or know how to go through and be aligned to. It gives you the possibility to know how you are going to be related through. And also the last step that you can include here will be the way that you can include dependency views, right? So dependency views means which will be the relation that I'm going to give to that element that I'm including through, depending on the needs. How can I do it? Well, basically I can do it there. Check that even I'm not going out from the CI class manager. And another one will be for anybody that would like to go through, will be the relationship CI list, right? We have tons of possibilities that we can create. Depending on the needs, you can do it. So let's suppose that I'm going to create that a parent will be server, right? And here we have different scenarios, right? We have here different configuration items that we have bring through here, or we can come inside that this one is Linux test, right? So we have here. And then we have the type, which will be the type that I'm going to work with. These ones are the ways that we interact or we know that the infrastructure works in relation. However, these are out-of-the-box concepts. Let's suppose, or let's identify that from that laptop that we are talking about, we bring information to the Linux server. So we can create a new one that is extracts, for example. So partner descriptor, right, will be extracts from and imports to, right? This will be when you talk about how they are going to interact in, right? So for example, you can relate to extract from, imports to, right? And then this will be the laptop, right? This it's given us in a specific scenario where we can talk about how we can align the process and how we can know that this system works as well, right? Let's suppose that we are talking about that we would like to cover the benchmark aligned to ITSM. If this element is related to bring or adapt or provide information to the scenario, we need to know the port, or even we need to know maybe other elements or other relations or other details that are aligned to the process. That gives you the possibility to know which exactly port is failing, if the problem is on the firewall, if the problem is on the laptop, if the problem is on the server. Gives you the possibility to know the bit rate per second or the bit rate of transference. Gives you the chance to know or identify how the element is aligned to the business needs and how you can control the values, right? So if we go through this process, it gives you the possibility to know how the CMDB is already aligned to the business value course of the information that we are including, and how you are protecting and how you are just providing or informing everybody on the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or any other classes that you have inside your service desk, that they know which is the exactly root cause analysis and which are the details that they are going to use to go through and give the resolution of that incident, problem, or change. So basically here, I can include any port. Let's suppose that we are going to include the port 23, right? Just as an example. So now we have our relation. And even if, for example, we go through, right? We go to the element, or we go to any of those, right? We go there, right? And now we have the possibility to see that specific dependency view, right? So the dependency view will be telling us that the Linux server extracts from this laptop information in order to do something next, right? Then we have other types of relations. Depending on the DevOps needs, you can go through and create your own, right? How to create and design an appropriate CMDB, right? Let's do another part of the example. Everybody, let me see the questions. Will be 5 more minutes, and that's it. So I would recommend eliminating any manual needs and only enable automated integration and ServiceNow discovery. Yeah, if you are just working manually, as I'm telling you, this will be the way. There are, and I'm telling you this, there are companies that they would like to work with 2 ways of structure, right? One will be if they don't have the budget. That will be one case scenario, as I'm telling you. And the other one will be related to the license. Remember that discovery, and here we are not talking about discovery, but we are talking about manual configuration. If you're talking about discovery, you need to know how many listeners or license you have through. You have to take about notes. And related to many companies, if they need a way to control the system scenario, or let's talk about the small companies, they can buy ServiceNow. They can buy the Express or the enterprise structure as an area for the platform. However, we need to be really careful on how we provide this information, right? Because if we talk about, all right, we are going to include 5,000 of devices. Do you have the control and do you have the budget? So in the best scenario, you can use service mapping or you can use discovery. However, if you don't have that chance, you can do it by your own, right? It depends on the taste, it depends on the needs, and it depends on the customer that we are working with, right? So how we can create and how we can design an appropriate CMDB. Depending on needs, it goes related to how we are going to create our relations, how we are going to create other needs or other properties for the system, how we are going to collect the information, which will be the relevant and important information that we are going to include for us. And related to the process, we need to be really careful on how we are going to include it, right? So, let me remember the name of him. As him Archer Car, it's mentioning through, yeah, he's just on the way that we can fly, right? However, in order for CMDB, we always talk about, let's verify how will be the strategy and the foundation, right? I'm giving you some steps here on how you can align your process and how you can control it. This is not only related to CMDB, this is how you can control the strategy to work with ITSM. Related to the assignment rule, you can avoid business rules. Related to the properties, you can avoid many things that could use or could consume performance on your ServiceNow platform. Setting up discovery will be great if you have the budget. If not, you can do your own manual thing like I'm doing it, right? So you need to verify how you are going to control and how your CMDB will be aligned to the business values, which will be the elements that you are going to include, which will be the values that you are going to include, or properties or attributes that you are going to include. And this can give you effectiveness once working with, for example, the ports, the structure, how they work through, the relations, and many other things. Sometimes, one of the things that I'm clear here is sometimes discovery works fine. That's true. However, discovery sometimes is not giving you all relations or all relationship types as the ones that you can create, right? So be really careful. If you want to create something really aligned to your company, do it, right? Benchmarks aligned to ITSM, be really careful, related to SLAs, related to the system. And also this comes related to how you can assign people upon the needs, right? If you have an incident, but this is upon tier 2, tier 3, well, the service desk does not need to create an escalation. It's already assigned and it's already provided to that group. Remember, they have a specific module here that it's called service desk, and they can see here which will be my group's work or my work. Depending on the assignment rules, you can control, and it will have a big impact on the effectiveness that you are going to work with. The next step will be how you can make the service modeling and inventory. Sometimes discovery can go and make the probes, sensors, and the design patterns that we have through. However, discovery is not the only way to control or service mapping. What happens if maybe the server it's there, but now you are not using that server to that specific relation, and you are changing the name or you are changing certain things? Sometimes the system itself, and that's something that we all know, is that technology has mistakes, right? Trust me. So better if you have a process owner or somebody, and this is a big term. This is a hit impact that always or any company has, and they know that they have to put maybe one or two guys involved on CMDB. So related to this, you need to verify how's the service modeling impacting. You need to verify how's your CI class manager control, how you can place it up on the system, how you are going to include those classes that maybe you are not including there, right? And how you are going to control those. Inventory, verify your staleness, verify the retired elements, verify that they are not shown inside the dependency views. Verify that even if you are applying discovery, third-party integrations, or manually, verify that that element could be retired without any impact on the records. Remember that sometimes when you take it out, the configuration item, it's gone from the form of incident, problem, or change, right? Be really careful. When you are just ready to go, fly and make integrations as some of the participants are talking about here. If you want to know many other things, all right, I'm going to plan them and I'm going to make other scenarios later on for CMDB basics and advanced CMDB relation scenarios. I'm planning with Lisa. Thank you so much, Lisa, for your invite and this kind of participation. We're planning to create other scenarios and other labs and keep in touch with the community so we can help you out and we can offer you many possibilities and many scenarios where we can come and go in touch with it, right? So if you have any other comments, scenarios, questions, let me know.
Thanks so much. And don't forget, if you have further questions, please post them on the link that's provided that's direct to where this session is on the community. Thanks again, everyone.